The winning blueprint presents.
In the lab room.
The weekend.
The weekend that was.
We're slate skating. We're slate skating. We're slate skating. We're slate skating.
So our next matchup takes us out to Jacksonville as the Cincinnati Bengals took on the Jacksonville Jaguars. And this one was simple. This was a simple game to diagnose. As I'm watching it, everything that I said came to fruition. The Jacksonville Jaguars on the defensive end are going to keep their team in the ball game for as long as they can stand. Cincinnati started this game out slow, and honestly, the Jaguars had every opportunity to start this game out fast. They did nothing on the offensive end, had to punt, pin the Cincinnati Bengals in their own territory in that ball game, and Andy Dalton throws an early interception. Intercepted by the linebacker, Kyle Bosworth, who then inexcusably fumbles the football. No one even touched him. He just dropped the ball, fumbled it. And literally, he was at about the 7-yard line. I don't know if he would have scored. But even if he's tackled at the 5, the Jags are 1st and 10 from the 5-yard line, or 1st and goal from the 5-yard line, looking to go in for 7. Instead, he fumbles. The Bengals recover that, drive it down the field. They get another opportunity. This time, Rasheem Mathis had an opportunity at an easy pick 6. Drops it. Bengals go on, get a touchdown on that drive, and they really never looked back. And I told you, the Jacksonville Jaguars are going to play defense, keep this team in the game as long as they could, and they did that for about 2 quarters and a half. And then it started to unravel because this Jaguars offense was doing nothing. Blaine Gabbert did nothing in this game. He had 23 completions, 35 or 34 attempts, and only 186 yards. You can't have less than, we're talking less than 8 yards per completion. You're not doing anything. You're not threatening the defense when you do that. And so they were doing nothing on offense. Maurice Jones-Drew had his smallest output in his career, 13 carries, only 37 yards on the ground. So they limited him in his efforts to help this team win for a second straight week. And they did nothing on offense, and they continuously put this defense on the field. They got worn down, and you knew it was only a matter of time before Andy Dalton hooked up with A.J. Green. They had a 42-yard connection that got it down to the 2-yard line, go in and score a touchdown, and they ran away with the game 27-10 on the road. They're the better team. They were supposed to beat the Jacksonville Jaguars. They did so. That takes their record to an impressive 3-1 on the season. Drops the Jacksonville Jaguars to 1-3 on the season. And this Jaguar team has a long way to go. We know that. This Bengals team is showing me every week, increasing my trust in them, that they're a good football team. I came into the season saying that I didn't buy the Cincinnati Bengals. I wasn't buying their stock, but this team is playing solid football, and every week they find a way to get it done. And now they are 3-1 overall in the season, and quietly they are hanging around the top of that AFC North division. Look out. The Cincinnati Bengals can score points, and their defense is not a pushover. You have to watch out for the Cincinnati Bengals. In another family business matchup, the Denver Broncos hosted the Oakland Raiders in a nasty AFC West rivalry. This family business, however, got out of hand quick. This is what we call having your pants pulled down and pointing and having people laugh at you. The Oakland Raiders had their pants pulled down, drawers pulled off of them, and had their genitals exposed for everyone to laugh at. It was on display for everyone, and They got absolutely whipped in this game. It got ugly, and it got ugly fast in this game. And just like their counterparts in the AFC West, the Denver Broncos took it to the Oakland Raiders just as the San Diego Chargers did to the Kansas City Chiefs. The two better teams in that division won on Sunday, and won in convincing fashion, showing the other two teams in that division, the Raiders and the Chiefs, that they are bottom feeders. That's where they are, that's where they belong, and that's where they're going to stay. And this division is a two-team race. That's what those two teams said on Sunday, that this division is between the San Diego Chargers and the Denver Broncos. Denver dominated in this football game. Defensively, they limited the Raiders to next to nothing on offense. They stopped the running game. They left Carson Palmer to fend for himself in the passing game. He could not do anything. They don't have good receivers in Oakland. They don't have good tight ends in Oakland. They don't have a lot of talent in Oakland. And so when you do that, that game last week was an aberration. They had an out-of-body experience. Everybody played up to their best. And they were able to get a win against the Steelers. But that's not indicative of who the Raiders are. This is more of who the Raiders are. They're not a good football team. They don't have talent. And it's going to take a while for Dennis Allen to turn that thing around. He's going to have to get pieces in there that fit what he's trying to do. And the Broncos took full advantage of it. Peyton Manning was flawless in this football game, marching up and down the field, doing what they wanted to do. Willis McGahee had his first 100-yard rushing game of the season. They looked like an explosive offense. They looked more like the Denver Broncos team we thought we were going to get coming into this season. And if they can continue to play like this more often, these Denver Broncos could, they're going to be a dangerous team. They're going to be the team we thought they were going to be when this season started. They absolutely shellacked the Raiders at home, 37-6, notching their second victory of the season, dropping the Raiders to 1-3, taking their record to 2-2. And now the Broncos use this win to elevate themselves to second place in that division. And now they're looking at the Chargers with their eyes on that first place spot. And the Denver Broncos are going to continue to play murderer's row schedule. They have a tough game coming up next week. But we'll see how they respond. I want to see what they do against a good football team. The Raiders are not a good football team, and they disposed of them. Now I want to see what they do when they have a good football team in front of them this next coming week. As for the Raiders, they have a lot of work to do, and it's not going to get better this season. They're a bad football team. They're going to continue to be a bad football team, and they're just going to have to play through this season and win as many games as they possibly can. Not going to be many, but they have to try anyway. As we work our way down the slate of games on the weekend that was, we find ourselves in probably the most entertaining, or one of the most entertaining games of the weekend. The Arizona Cardinals hosting the Miami Dolphins. And the Dolphins came into this game a team that just had hard luck. They lost a week ago to the Jets at home, a game that they should have won. And they're a team trying to find out and figure out what it means to win football games in the National Football League. New head coach Joe Philbin has this team playing good football. And for that collection of guys he has a ragtag group of guys out there on the football field. They are playing solid football, especially on the defensive side of the football. They probably should be 2-1 right now, but they're not. And so they have to learn how to win football games. Prime example, they had the Arizona Cardinals on the ropes. And this was a game between two teams who mirror each other in the sense that the Cardinals used to be the Dolphins 4 years ago, 5 years ago, when Ken Whisenhunt first took over this Arizona Cardinals franchise and first was named the Arizona Cardinals head coach. He had to change a losing culture. He had to change the way the Cardinals viewed playing the game of football and teach them how to win. And that's where Joe Philbin is right now with this Miami Dolphins franchise. He has to teach them how to win again. They got accustomed to losing out in Miami, and now they have to find a way to win ball games. When they get in close games, they got to find a way to pull it out. And so the Dolphins came into this game, and I thought that they had the Arizona Cardinals sleepwalking. The Cardinals were sleepwalking throughout the first half of this game. This was evident by the first half score of 13-0 as the Dolphins took a 13-point lead to halftime. The Dolphins came out in this game, and I thought they were very effective and just controlling the tempo and the pace. They weren't doing anything overly well. I thought Ryan Tannehill, though, came out and showed exactly why he was that first-round selection for these Dolphins and why he is the quarterback of the future for them. He was making quick, concise decisions, which resulted in quick, accurate throws from the pocket. And the Cardinals were getting pressure on him, but he was not fazed at all by the pressure, making sound decisions. He made a few mistakes in there, mixed in with a lot of the good decisions that he was making, but all in all, he's a rookie. He's going to make mistakes. He had a solid game, solid first half, and had these Dolphins believing that they could win. They were up 13-0 at half. And I texted a buddy of mine because he texted me and said, what's going on with these Cardinals? And I told him it's a 60-minute game. The Dolphins dominated for 30 minutes. Now let's see what they do for the other 30. I said, just like last week, they dominated the Jets, should have won the game, but they didn't because they don't know how to win. And I don't think they know how to win, and I don't think they're going to beat the Cardinals today. We're going to see what they do for the remaining 30 minutes. And sure enough, the Cardinals put up 14 unanswered points, took the lead. Then the Dolphins responded. And Brian Hartline had a hell of a game. A hell of a game. Over 200 yards receiving, 12 receptions. He destroyed the Cardinals secondary. Just absolutely had his best game as a pro and probably the best game of his life. As he caught an 80-yard touchdown pass to put the Dolphins back on top. They went for two. Jaworski Lane is becoming a red zone beast for the Dolphins. If you watch Hard Knocks, you know he is the former Texas A&M running back who stopped playing football. He was out of shape, overweight, and offensive coordinator Mike Sherman told him, look, you get into shape, you get under 260 pounds, I'll find a shot for you. I'll give you a shot. What you do with it is on you, but I'll find a way to get you a tryout. I'll get you a shot. He got himself into playing shape, came in, and the Dolphins are using him, and I think they're utilizing him beautifully. He's a battering ram inside the red zone, inside the one. He's an automatic touchdown. You can't stop him. They used him for one of their early touchdown runs. Then they used him again on the 2-point conversion. He caught a little dump off and ran it in, and so they took a 7-point lead. And Kevin Kolb had an egregious pick in that game that gave the Cardinals the ball right before that touchdown. Patrick Peterson scooped up a fumble, and you know he's electrifying. You know how I feel about Patrick Peterson. He runs it down to the 2-yard line. Kevin Kolb proceeds to throw a pick in the end zone, touchback. The next play, the Dolphins go up top. The Brian Hartline touchdown, 80-yard pass. They go up by 7. So I rewind. So fast forward back to the Cardinals having the football. They end up punting, stopping the Dolphins, getting the football back one more time, and get to 4th and about 2. Kolb delivers on 4th down several times on that possession, including 4th and 10, where he finds an open Andre Roberts on 4th and 10 to tie the football game up at 21. They go to overtime, and again, this is where the Dolphins have to find a way to get it done. Dan Carpenter continues his struggles as field goal kicker for the Dolphins. Someone who was so consistent a year ago has lost his stride, and I think kicking as a field goal kicker in the National Football League is much like a hitter in Major League Baseball or a golfer in golf. It's a very mental game for them. One that when they hit a slump, it is hard for them to get out of that slump because it's mental. At that point, they're thinking they're going to miss and they're pressing. Just like a hitter at the plate who's in a long slump, or a golfer who can't seem to make putts and is struggling. It's mental. And I think with these field goal kickers, it starts to snowball. They miss one kick, it goes to the next kick, and all of a sudden now they're telling themselves not to miss instead of going up and saying, I'm going to make this field goal. They're kicking not to miss. And so he's in one of those funks right now. I think he's a good field goal kicker, but he's struggling right now. And so Dan Carpenter missed a field goal that could potentially have given them a lead during regulation. They get to overtime. Tannehill gets hit while throwing the football. It turns out to be an interception that proved to be costly as the Cardinals intercepted that in Dolphins territory, got a couple first downs, and sent Jay Feely on the field, who kicked the game-winning field goal in overtime to propel the Arizona Cardinals to a 4-0 start to this season as they win 27-24, running their record again to 4-0, dropping the Dolphins to 1-3. And it's been hard luck for the Dolphins. Again, they could easily be 3-1 on this season, but they don't know how to win football games yet. And so they're 1-3 on the season. As a result, until they learn how to win games, and they're a young football team, young quarterback, new head coach, they're going to have growing pains. But if they can continue to fight, scratch, and claw and be in games like this, they're going to win their fair share of games. So they won't be contending for anything this year, but they're going to be a tough out. If your team, toward the end of this season, and they're only going to get better and learn how to win even more as this season progresses, they can stay healthy. If Reggie Bush can be out on the field, Tannehill can continue to develop and get experience, they're only going to become that much better of a football team. If you have to play them down the stretch and you're vying for a playoff spot, you're looking to try to get a wild card spot later on in the season, you don't want to see this Miami Dolphins football team. They're going to grow into a team that's going to be hard to deal with and someone you don't want to contend with when trying to secure a wild card spot in the playoffs. Look out for this Dolphins team down the road. But right now, they just don't know how to win. They're trying to learn how to get it done in close ball games. Our next game finds us in Green Bay as the Green Bay Packers look to take on the New Orleans Saints in a matchup of two juggernauts from 2011 season. But this is not 2011. This is 2012. And so instead of this being the battle of the Titans, this ended up being the matchup of desperate teams. We call this the Desperation Bowl, as the 0-3 New Orleans Saints traveled to Green Bay to take on the 1-2 Packers. And yeah, the Packers should be 2-1. There's no here nor there. They're 1-2 coming into this game. They needed it. They were home, and they had to have it. This Saints team, not a good football team. They can score with the best of them, but they can't stop anybody from scoring. And if you were able to hold down Drew Brees for a couple of possessions straight, force him into a bad throw, couple of turnovers, boom, you got yourself a W, and that's what teams have been doing this year. And this game was no different. I thought that these quarterbacks, though, did show up, and they were going tit for tat. They were out there matching each other wit for wit, and they were going out and making plays in the passing game as this game turned into a shootout. On a smaller scale, I mean, last year this game would have been, and it was a 38-45 game or something like that last year. This year on a much smaller scale, yeah, it still was a good game, well played by both teams. I thought the officials had a little bit to do with this game, but again, the officials are a part of the game. They blew a call on a Darren Sproles fumble late in the game. Both of these teams were going back and forth, scoring the football. Drew Brees started off with a touchdown pass to Colston, who pushed off. They didn't call it. The Packers scored right before that. Aaron Rodgers on a beautiful rollout to his left, threw across his body as only Aaron Rodgers could on a rope to James Jones, who caught a touchdown pass. And so the game was knotted at 7 after the Saints had their touchdown answer after the Packers scored. And so they came out, and that's how the game went for the most part. The Packers score, Saints score. Packers score, Saints score. And we found ourselves at 27-28 late in the ball game. Packers up by 1. Again, Darren Sproles fumbled the football. Packers out of challenges, could not challenge. The referees ruled him down by contact, which he was not. Clear fumble. They missed that one. It happens. The Packers or the Saints go down the field, get into scoring position. About a 43-yard field goal for Thomas Morstead, who bangs it home. However, holding on the play, send them back 10 yards. The Packers then proceed to get an offsides penalty, cutting the field goal down to 48 yards. Morstead kicks it and hooks it wide left, and the Packers survive in a nail biter 27 or 28-27 against this Saints team who's just struggling right now. Drew Brees said before the game they're going to turn this thing around. I beg to differ with you, Drew. I know that you want to will your team to victory, but it's not just you out there. You can't will your team to victory because this defense stinks. And in the past, you were able to score more points than the opposing team, but that's no longer the case because the teams are limiting you just enough to where this defense can't hold off teams. 30 points isn't enough anymore. Before you would score 34 and the other team would score 30 and you would win. And so you're not going to be able to turn this thing around this year. And I think the Green Bay Packers just put the finishing touches on this Saints season. As the Saints fall to 0-4, the Packers go to 2-2 on the season and look to rectify their season and turn things around. These Saints are done. I think the Packers just put the last bits of dirt on their coffin. And the Packers needed this one. They went out and got it. And you don't care how you get them in this league. You just want to get them, and they got one. And so now they're 2-2, and they're looking to climb back into the discussion in the NFC North Division. Now, moving right along to our Sunday night matchup, which was a beauty between the New York Giants and the Philadelphia Eagles. More family business. And family business at its finest, I may add. I'm an NFC East guy because I am a Redskins fan, so I love watching two NFC East teams beat the hell out of each other. And nothing better than to watch the Giants and the Eagles go at it on Sunday Night Football. And I knew it was going to be a great game. The Eagles normally get the Giants. They've beaten them the last 7 out of 8 times. And I gave my pick of the Giants over the Friday review of the games, or preview of the games. But I picked the Eagles actually on my football pool sheet. And so I was conflicted. I was torn a bit because I wanted the Eagles to win because of what was on my sheet, but I said I was going to go with the Giants. And the L.A.B had the Giants. So I much rather win in the pool because the pool has money attached to it. So my allegiance for the night was with the Eagles. But I just wanted to see these teams beat the hell out of each other, and that's what they did. It is a classic NFC East matchup between two teams who get after each other. Both teams struggled in protecting their quarterbacks early on. Thought both teams were getting pressure, even though there were no sacks in this game for a long time. It was pressure being applied. A lot of holding penalties as a result of the pressure being applied on these quarterbacks, and so drives were stalling out because you weren't able to overcome 2nd and 20 or 3rd and 17 because you got a holding penalty. And so a lot of drives stalled out early on in this ball game. Thought that the Eagles did just enough to win, but I thought they were going to lose this game because they could not score in the red zone. The difference in the game was the ability of the Giants when they had opportunities to get 7. They scored 2 touchdowns in this game versus the Eagles, who scored 1 touchdown and kicked 4 field goals, to have to kick field goals. The Eagles got in the red zone at least 3 times in this game and only came away with 1 touchdown. And that's a remedy for disaster if you're playing against a team the likes of the Giants who can score points and score them quickly, which they did in this game. For a lot of this game, the Giants did nothing. But on the drives that they did score, it was like that. They would go march right down the field, bang, bang, boom, boom, touchdown. And so the Eagles, I thought, were going to lose this game because they couldn't get in the end zone. But I thought they did an excellent job of running the football with Shady McCoy. Andy Reid, he does this from time to time. After they lose a game they should win because they don't run the football enough, they come back the following week and run the ball convincingly and have success with it. Andy Reid is going to go back to throwing the football. That's what he does. But for that night, LaShawn McCoy was on display. He's one of the best backs in the league. This guy is phenomenal. in his ability to make people miss, change directions, cut it back against the grain. He's an awesome running back, and they allowed him to dominate the game and control the pace of the game. And he was really big in the fourth quarter last night to help the Eagles win that game. A lot of dramatics down the stretch. Eagles had a tough decision to make at the 2-minute warning. Do they go for a touchdown? Do they try to keep the ball in play and make the Giants use their last timeout? They elected to go with the latter, with Vic rolling out and just basically falling down to keep the clock running, force the Giants to use their last timeout. Giants had plenty of time to go down the field and score. They get the ball back down 2, and they were getting killed, were the Eagles, in special teams by David Wilson, the kick returner for the Giants, a rookie running back out of Virginia Tech. He was absolutely destroying the Eagles, in the return game. He had returns of 50, 40, 47, 43, and 37. He was just dominating these guys all night long. Close to 200, if not over 200 return yards for David Wilson on the ground in that on those kickoff returns. He was absolutely fabulous against the Philadelphia Eagles, and he busted off another one toward the end of the game on that last possession to start it out for the Giants, getting them out toward the 40-yard line. And so Eli Manning didn't have that far to go to get in the field goal range, but to give credit to the Eagles, they stood up on the defensive side of the football when they needed to, forcing Eli Manning to make mistakes and have to throw the ball away and not allowing him to complete passes. But there were some costly penalties on this final possession, a lot of controversial calls. The first pass interference was definitely on a 4th down, on a 4th and 1, definitely pass interference by Dominique Rodgers-Cromartie. He literally was tackling Ramses Barden down the sideline as the Giants went for the jugular. That essentially put them all but in field goal range. However, the Giants needed about one more first down to be comfortable in field goal range, and so they went for it. I thought on a 3rd down, Eli threw a slant to Ruben Randall, and they gave them a pass interference call, and this was a very, very questionable call. You got to let them play, especially at that juncture of the game. You can't throw the flag on something as minute as that, and so that cemented the Giants being in field goal range. Again, you want to get as close as possible. There was plenty of time remaining, so the Giants opted to do so, and Eli went up top for Ramses Barden, who this time was flagged for pass interference as Dominique Rodgers-Cromartie was essentially boxing him out away from the football. Barden proceeded to try to DDT him reverse style, and he got called for a flag. And I thought it was the right call. Barden in that situation can't do that, even though he was being essentially boxed out from the football. You can't grab and hold and molest a guy like that trying to get to the football and have that called on you. Just as his coach said, if you do nothing in that situation, you're fine. But you can't afford to get a pass interference, which he did, moved them back 10 yards, and ultimately that ended up being the ballgame. I thought that Tom Coughlin, with about 15 seconds remaining, elected to kick that field goal way too soon. I thought he panicked and decided to kick it early because they had no more timeouts remaining, afraid that if they got caught in bounds, they weren't going to have enough time to spike the football. But they could have ran some kind of outbreaking route and got to the sidelines. And if you don't see what you like, throw it away and then kick the field goal. It wouldn't have hurt to try that, but to have 15 seconds left on the clock and put your field goal kicker out on the field for a 54-yard field goal attempt with 15 seconds left, I thought that was insane on his part. And Andy Reid tried to blow the game. The Eagles were discussing, the Giants were discussing whether to go for it in terms of going with the offense out on the field or kicking the field goal. And they were talking as if they had a timeout, which they didn't. And so they had to rush on the field. Everything was being sped up. He decided to err on the side of caution, did Coughlin. He sent the field goal unit out there. They set up with about 8 seconds left, so kicker really didn't have time to get into his whole spiel and set up, and so they had to rush the whole process. And we all know that the field goal process is something that is deliberate. It's something that needs to have, it's very timing based. It needs to have the time dedicated to it, and so everybody needs to be on the same page. It's very timing oriented. They didn't have time to set up, and so it was rushed, and he missed it. But Andy Reid called a timeout. This icing the kicker stuff, I think, is so ridiculous, and it gives kickers basically a free shot at it to get warmed up. You ice, and my friend texted me, and I thought it was a great point. You ice rookies, you ice kickers that are skittish. You do not ice veteran kickers who are unfazed by a timeout right before the kick. To them, that's a practice swing. They missed, and now Tynes got another shot at it, and he lined it up perfectly from 54 yards, but he just was 1 yard short of making the kick. He kicked it 53. He needed it to go 54, and so the Eagles were able to hold on despite what I saw as a gaffe by Andy Reid by calling that last-second timeout trying to ice Lawrence Tynes, who almost made him pay for it. The Eagles were able to hold on at home in the division against a team that was playing hot football, and were able to limit them to 17 points, get the victory 19-17 at home to take their record to 3-1 on the season and drop the Giants to 2-2. A big win for the Eagles, and that puts them atop the division pending the Cowboys matchup on Monday. They sit alone atop the NFC East, and that was a big win for them against a team that was playing really good football, against the Super Bowl defending champs, and in a week where a lot of people were questioning Michael Vick and his place as the Eagles quarterback, and Andy Reid's decision not to run the football more, and questioning this Eagles team overall with all the turnovers and how they've won games. This was a big bounce-back victory for the Eagles, one that they needed desperately. And so it's going to quiet down the naysayers and answer a lot of questions for the time being. Meanwhile, the Giants, tough one to swallow if you're the Giants. You had every opportunity to win this game. You didn't get it done. But, again, this is a team that is resilient. They have the heart of a champion, and they're not going to be fazed by losing this game in Philadelphia. It's one that they feel like they should have gotten, but no Hakeem Nicks out there in a critical situation where they could have definitely used him. They didn't have one of their better receivers, and so they look at this game and say, this one got away from us, we should have won, but they'll move on, and the Giants will look to rebound next week as they fall to 2-2 on the season. And so that's going to do it for the week that was. So that was the last game on a Sunday that saw me go 11-3. It was a fabulous weekend, and on my sheet, on my football pool sheet, I actually went 13-1. My only loss being the Seattle Seahawks to the Rams. I had the Seahawks all the way, lost that one, but I went on the limb and picked the Vikings over the Lions, won that game. Picked the Eagles over the Giants, won that game, and so I have a chance tonight to win the football pool. I'm proud of myself. First time I really have played in the football pool this year, and so I had to turn it up. I told you I was going to turn it up. These replacement officials were no longer in the game. The officials were back, and I was going to start to get this thing together because I knew the consistency and the level of consistency I was going to get from these officials. And so I'm back. I'm back, and I feel good, and I'm glad. And now tonight's game sees the Dallas Cowboys taking on the Chicago Bears. The Bears on the road traveling to Dallas. I see the Cowboys getting this one done. I think the Bears are a team that cannot protect Jay Cutler. When they play against lesser teams, they do enough to win, as they did against the Rams and as they did against the Colts. But when they play against teams that can get after the quarterback, like the Packers, like the Cowboys can, I think they're going to struggle. I think Jay Cutler is going to be uncomfortable back there. DeMarcus Ware is going to put pressure. But at the same token, the Cowboys are a team that's struggling on offense. They can't protect Tony Romo. Julius Peppers and company is going to have an opportunity to come after Tony Romo. But I think that the Cowboys have enough on offense to get it done and find a way to beat the Chicago Bears at home This is going to be a tight ball game. Two defenses that are playing really well. Two offenses that at times struggle mightily. I think the Cowboys are going to do just enough, however, to win this game 20-16, to take their record to 3-1, drop the Bears to 2-2 on the season. This is going to be a really good game. Anxious to see if Matt Forte is going to play. If he does, he could be the difference maker in this game, because the Cowboys are very stingy on the ground, but Matt Forte is such a special player. You never know what's going to happen when he touches the football. If they can protect Jay Cutler, they have a shot, but I don't see them being able to do so. If what they've done and put on the field is indicative of what they're going to do against the Cowboys, that offensive line is going to get destroyed by DeMarcus Ware and company. No Anthony Spencer, though. That is a big loss for the Cowboys, however. No Anthony Spencer. He's dealing with some sort of injury to his midsection, and so they're going to have to go without the services of Anthony Spencer tonight. Let's see if someone else can step in and get pressure on the quarterback. But nonetheless, Cowboys tonight, get it done 20-16, and I got a shot at winning this football pool. I think I got a good a shot as anyone, and that's what happens when you put yourself in position by picking good picks and making smart picks and sticking to your principles. You do big things, and that's what I look to do moving forward in this entire season. And so that's going to do it for me. That's a touchdown. I'm going to throw it up, tack on a quick extra point. The Redskins were able to get a victory, a big one, over the weekend, and I'll be doing a segment on them. The Warpath Warrior will arrive and talk about the Redskins game and all things Redskins. So if you get a chance, that will be up on the docket tomorrow. Stay tuned for that. I thank you for joining me on this Monday edition of In the Lab Room. Hope you enjoyed that weekend of football as I did, and hope you plan to enjoy this Monday night affair between the Chicago Bears and the Dallas Cowboys. It's going to be a good one. I'll see you tomorrow after this game is finished and you have a chance to digest everything that occurred in week 4. I will put a bow on it tomorrow, and then we will start to move forward and look at week 5. I'll see you tomorrow. Have a good one. Same time, same place. I'm out.